The cold body sat there, mocking me. Even in death, he held all the power. In that moment, I wasn't sure if I had made the right choice, but I was in too deep already. If I did the right thing, I'd be crucified. Someone from the East End, complicit in the murder of the Willem, making sure that he stayed dead was for the best. Or so I tell myself every night. Every second I wasted, the odds were getting worse and worse. We planned this all to a T. There was no room for error. It was just that I had seen people beaten, bloodied, unconscious, but never dead. They would always come back. I chose this career because I thought it would be a fun way to make a difference. But this isn't it at all. I'm relegated to spending my nights watching people from a distance. Still though, this beats working a 9 to 5. My current case is Tyler Smith. His parents have given me a very generous fee to watch over him. Typical suburban paranoia. It's either parents worrying about kids or spouses worried about each other cheating. People in general never really trust each other. Most cases all go the same. They all end up being nothing. Sometimes I catch a spouse in the act, take some pictures, and send them over to ruin a relationship and get a bonus. An optimistic perspective would say I'm saving the relationship from itself. Nothing good comes from cheaters, so I'm happy to burst their bubble. These teenagers, however, all they do is go to the movies, eat fast food, and stand in the parking lot talking for hours. I sit in my car from a distance, sketching what I see, taking notes and pictures, sending them to the parents so they can ID everyone. Man, helicopter parents are crazy. As they say their goodbyes, one person in the group stays back alone. He took out a hoodie with a weird logo of a pointer finger in the air made of wires and metal. Shortly after, a matte black Dodge Charger came and picked him up. Strange, but it's not my problem. This morning I got a call from a new client, friends of Tyler's parents, and they wanted to meet with me right away because their son Brian didn't come home last night. When I asked to look at a picture, I recognized him as the teen I saw get picked up last night. I couldn't mention that though. Presentation is key in my profession. First, I always refuse to speak about my fee till after the initial meeting is over. After our conversation, I asked to step aside and call my sources, letting them know that I have a new client and relay the information the parents tell me. I make sure this is out of the way, but to make sure they can hear me clearly. My tone needs to sound urgent and direct, filled with conviction. As the phone rings, I hear them murmuring, something about me being from the East End. It throws me off for a second, but I stick to my routine. When I come back, I tell them I can start by questioning Tyler about it since he's friends with Brian. They look at each other reluctantly, but accept to pay half a very generous fee now, and the other half after I find him. My only lead is Tyler, because he was there that night, but I can't approach him directly. Luckily, my friend's little brother James knows him. I reached out to him on Instagram. Normally our conversations consist of sending NBA news posts to each other, but this time I asked if he knew anything about Brian disappearing. He said no, but it was a very lucky break for me that him and Brian are in the same group project, so he's also curious about where he is, and has an in. I offered my usual fee of $50 and sent 10 in advance so he doesn't try and haggle me. It's an East End thing. After about half an hour, he responded. Tyler didn't know much, but the hoodie was a recent purchase. They're being sold in different after-hours school parking lots every night. The car they are being sold out of is a black Dodge Charger. Last night, it was at a school 5 minutes away. I thanked James and sent him the remaining $40. Looks like I've got a couple hours to kill before I can follow the lead. So I head to the gym. I arrive to the gym and get there at 2 p.m. right before it gets busy. I see two of my friends and decide to work in with them. I tell them about my case and how I'm happy to get my mind off it for a couple hours at least. Then one of them turns to me and says, "Isn't that the type of hoodie you were talking about?" I turn and see a jacked man with the hoodie I saw Brian wearing the night he disappeared. I went to fill up my water bottle and exaggerated noticing the hoodie, so I went up to him. "Sick hoodie, man. Where'd you get it?" "Thanks, I made the design for a client and decided to keep one for me." "Does the client have a store online or in person? I really want one." "I know they mostly do smaller in-person vendor stuff. At least that's what they told me. I think it's for a type of group or club. I get asked about it a lot. Wish I knew more." "Oh, okay. Do you think you can give your client my name and number and tell them I want one?" "Sure." I thanked the man and went back to my workout. So much for keeping your mind off of work, huh? As night begins to fall, all my sources came back empty. The only lead I had was to start checking school parking lots. After checking a few, I began to get tired, so I went for a quick coffee run. Tim's was busy. It felt like the line was barely moving. From behind me, I hear a voice. My man. I turn around, and it's the guy from the gym, wearing a different hoodie with the same style. Something was off about the way he was talking compared to a few hours earlier. Hey, funny seeing you here. Nice hoodie. Thanks. I just got a new one. If you want, I can give you a scoop and take you to the parking lot. Maybe another time. I got my own whip. Which parking lot was it though? If I want to go tomorrow, it'll be a different spot tomorrow, man. One-time offer. How badly do you want that hoodie? I wasn't buying what he was selling. It's an obvious trap, but that means I'm close. Another time, man. I'll see you at the gym. I get my coffee and leave. Right on schedule, as I pull out of the parking lot, a car follows. Amateurs. As I check the rear view mirror, I get a clean look at the car, a matte black Dodge Charger. Perfect. At the first light, I managed to write down the license plate. So far, so good. Next, I need to lose them without making him suspicious, so he can lead me to Brian. If I do anything suspicious, I could easily scare them off, or get myself in trouble. The best plan is normally the simplest one. Nearby, there's a long stretch of road without any street lights and a high speed limit. I drove with 2 cars of separation as quickly as I could, then suddenly stopped and pulled over into the darkness of trees and turned off my car. Then I waited. 1, 2. He passed, and 1, 2, 3. And now I quickly turned my car back on and start following. He didn't seem like he knew what he was doing, tailing or talking to me. He's clearly being forced. Time to find out by who. The Charger tried to find where I went, but eventually gave up and pulled over. I made sure to be far enough away that he wouldn't notice me. Then the car began to drive from place to place, picking up people with the same hoodie of the same logo. Once the car was filled up, it began to drive erratically, trying to break any possible tail it could have. But he's clearly never dealt with someone like me. Finally, they arrived to an elementary school parking lot in the suburbs. Many more cars began pulling in, so I decided to park on a side street and make my way over using a connecting forest path. As I parked my car and got out, I noticed a coyote warning. Great, this is the last thing I need. But I have to be covert, so I can't afford using a flashlight at risk of getting caught. So I'm gonna have to go in with nothing but the moonlight and light pollution. While the tension was strong at first, as the walk continued, I began to become really at peace in the dark. It was surprisingly refreshing, just being disconnected from everything. The non-stop pace of the day never really stopped as I kept my research from home and after the gym, but now there's nothing much more I can do. This was a lot more what I was expecting being a detective to be like. Exciting cases, adventures, being caught up in the middle of a thing bigger than yourself, helping others and getting financially rewarded for it. If these paydays become more consistent, then man, I can afford a house in 5 years with how the market is? Almost sounds too good to be true. What am I even gonna do when I find Brian? I haven't even considered that. As I finish that thought, I'm close enough to where I can see the parking lot in the distance. I look through my binoculars from behind some bushes and see an orange Corvette pull into the now full parking lot. The man who gets out of the Corvette looks like Jimmy. I went to high school with him. I'm not sure what a guy like Jimmy is doing with a Corvette. Must be a rental. He says something to them that they then get rallied together and begin to walk towards the forest past the soccer field. Meanwhile, I start to hear coyotes howling, getting closer and closer. I have to wait for everyone to clear the parking lot before I can cross the street and get away from the coyotes. There's too many people, they're taking forever. The coyotes are only getting closer and closer. I can hear them surrounding me from behind. I have to take a gamble. I sprint across the street onto a little hill leading up to the soccer field and lay on my back, looking behind me. I see their eyes in the darkness staring at me. I catch my breath and slowly turn onto my stomach, watching the last few people leave the parking lot. As the final people clear the parking lot, I move in. I take pictures of every make and model I see. Nothing really stood out. They were all average, middle class, and working class vehicles. Jimmy's Corvette had a folder inside, but I couldn't make the labeling on it. I looked over and see the last of them heading into the woods through a broken metal fence. I decided to follow suit from a distance. I was completely in the dark here. having to be extra careful because I couldn't risk being spotted on the path they made. So I went the long way around, deep in the woods, under the camouflage of trees and foliage. They are making enough noise to where I don't have to worry about being spotted by stepping on a branch or something dumb like that. I finally arrive and start taking pictures and videos. I couldn't believe my eyes. There was a large bonfire surrounded by chairs and couches that looked like they had been thrown away. In the middle was one recliner with Jimmy sat in it. Everyone around him was talking, but he wasn't happy. "Drop and give me 100, he yelled. Everyone got on it, all in unison, but one boy, no older than 13, was lagging behind badly. Jimmy walked up to him, saying, "If you're not built for this, all you have to do is say so." The boy stays still. Jimmy punches him in the stomach and says, "Weakness will not be tolerated. The world is filled with weak-minded puppets who bend to the wills of others. But us, we will take control of our destinies." What the? Jimmy isn't strong, nor smart. Why are all of them listening to him? Jimmy continued his lecture. He mentioned how society is too complicated now with too many choices, leading to echo chambers and everyone believing their own false truths. He said how AI will filter out false truths and be able to make a more objective choice than any human can. He said how life would be more simple and people can focus on enjoying life and not hunting for the truth. He continues that free will always lead to conflict, as people will have varying definitions of truth. With AI's universal truth, that can't be disputed, therefore no conflict can exist. While he continued his lecture, and the attendants were taking notes, I was walking around videoing everything, and recording everyone who was there before sending it to my source. Jimmy began walking around with a damn credit card machine taking donations. Is this supposed to be a church? Anyone dumb enough to listen to him deserves their money taken. But then, in the corner of my eye, I see Brian going up to Jimmy with the card in his hands. Unknowing that I told his parents to cancel his card, I started to count how many people were in front of Brian and try and find a workaround. Then my heart drops. Brian walks in front of everyone else, rushing to thank Jimmy. Fuck. They have a small chat, and Jimmy says some bullshit, how he's proud of him for taking his first step. I look around to see if the Jack guy was there, but he wasn't. But shit, I'm not Batman. I can't fight like 50 people. Plus, will Brian even go with me? Shit, he took out the card. Fuck. Decline. 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 Jimmy says if he can't afford to pay him, then he can't afford to succeed in life, and gets two guys to grab him. They took Brian to the bonfire, and ripped off his hoodie and threw it in the fire, saying he doesn't deserve to wear their logo. Everyone is belittling him. Poor kid, he looks like he's about to cry. But it's his fault. I can't move. I can't take my eyes off him. As long as it doesn't get physical, it'll be okay. My fist gets clenched. Though I won't let up. I try and close my eyes. I don't know what to do, but I can't stop looking at Jimmy. Slimy rat. I remember what he would call me. I want to cave his face in, but jumping in means I can make things worse. Then, Jimmy kicks him in the stomach and begins to jump him. I didn't even blink, and the next thing I knew, his blood was on my fist, and he was on the ground, and everyone was looking at me. The good news was that none of Jimmy's members had any formal training. The bad news was that there was like 50 of them. I try and isolate them into 1v1s, aiming for liver shots to just keep them on the ground without serious injury. But this isn't a movie. Eventually there were too many of them, and I was being jumped. They got hold of me, and Jimmy slowly gets up. Jimmy smiles when he notices me. He starts lecturing again, this time focusing on me as a bum, an East End parasite. He says how too many choices are the reason I don't have a proper job and play detective. If AI was in control, it would pick a job for me, like a garbage man. I get used to his rambling and block it out, beginning to think of a plan, but he notices. He gets really close to me, looks me in the eye, and says, "I'll forever be a failure, like my parents." Next thing I knew, I slipped out of the hold and hit him with a gazelle punch before getting jumped again. I couldn't do anything about being jumped, so I started to think. Then I got it. The folder in the Corvette had the insignia of the mob. Then it all made sense. That was a sponsor, probably some thug from the mob. Prove you're a big shot. Come on, I'm right here, you bastard. Carmen told me how there's an age-old mob tradition that was primal. If someone challenged you to a fight, you couldn't decline. The law of the jungle, it's how they rolled. Being the head of the table, Willem had to stay in top fighting shape till his death. A low-level thug, though, would be light work. Jimmy had no choice but to accept, because declining someone from the East End would mean dishonoring the mob, a fate worse than dying with honor. But after accepting, Brian chimes in. He wants to take Jimmy's place to prove his loyalty. You gotta be kidding me. All the kid had to do was keep his mouth shut. That dumbass. I wanted to properly get my hands on Jimmy and beat him within an inch of his life. I take slow, deep breaths. Okay, what can I do now? How do I get out of this? But before I start to think, Brian runs at me. Brian is lanky and uncoordinated, but I can't afford taking hits to the head. I try and reason with him, but it's useless. He's blinded by Jimmy. If he thinks the strongest will survive, I'll show him strength. I stop being on the defense and start throwing some jabs. I land, but most importantly, the pressure's on him. He raises his hands to protect his face. Just what I wanted. He gets desperate and throws a wild cross. Just what I was waiting for. I take a step to my left, slipping to the outside of his punch, and pivot to face him. With all my weight, I turn and explode with a liver shot. Luckily, I didn't hear any ribs crack, but he was down. Brian tries to get up, but his knees wobble and buckle. I tell him I'm sorry, but there was no other way. Now I turn my attention to that weasel Jimmy. I tell him that the challenge is done. The kid's out of the cult, and if he goes back on his word, I'll beat him to an inch of his life. Jimmy tells me how he has connections that'll protect him from a bottom-feeding East Ender like me. I knew he wouldn't keep his word. Luckily, I planned for this. I took out my phone and showed the photos and videos sent to my source. I told Jimmy and everyone else that if I don't respond with a unique code over a phone call every 30 minutes, then everything will be sent to the news and law enforcement. Jimmy said, so what? Let them see. But everyone else has jobs, friends, and family. They wouldn't want to see that, so they ran away. Jimmy tells them to wait and agrees to my terms. He knew I would keep my word. We reached Brian's house, but he wouldn't get out of the car. I wasn't sure what he was gonna do. I didn't know how to deal with it. He told me he's scared, and everyone tells him he has to decide on the type of man he wants to be right now, but he doesn't know. He thought being told by AI or Jimmy would make him feel less lost. I tell him, all you can do is your best, and always think of what your next actionable step is. Eventually, I tell him with every effort, failure, or success, you'll find out who you are. He asked me if I'm meant to be a detective. I respond with, well, we'll see how this gig goes, but I think I'm not doing too bad. We walk to the front door, and his parents open. They see me, looking concerned. Then they see Brian and hug him, completely ignoring me. But it's okay. I gave them their space and headed home. When I got home and checked my phone, I saw I got an e-transfer from Brian's parents. It was more than the amount we agreed on. With a message, he told us everything. Thank you. It felt good. And that's a lie. I felt like shit from all the hits, but kind of felt good. I had one problem though. There were all those people still in Jimmy's cult, like the 12-year-old, who I couldn't save. I can't afford to take him down without getting paid. This is the real world, not some story. Then I wonder who he knew in the mob. Who was gonna protect him? It could be anyone. Jimmy's still in the forest and he's furious. He can't calm down. He's ranting about everything that happened that night. Then a calm voice responds. Dante's made his move, and we know Dante. Don't worry about it, Jimmy. I can't touch him without reason, but we'll keep an eye on him as he plays detective. If he moves directly against me, then I won't have a choice but to do something, will I? No. No, you won't, Jimmy responds, smiling.